As the deer panteth for the water, so my soul longeth after thee. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship thee. You alone are my strength, my shield. To you alone may my spirit yield. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship thee. You, my friend, and you are my brother, even though you are a king. I love you more than any other, so much more than anything. I want you more than gold or silver, only you can satisfy. You alone are my real joy giver, and the apple of my eye. You alone are my strength, my shield. To you alone may my spirit yield. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship thee. And I long to worship thee.
Thank you so much, Jamara. Are you feeling a bit more worried these days, a bit more stressed and anxious, maybe even a bit more angry at times? If you are, don't worry. You are not alone. Every year, the Gallup organization takes a survey of the world's emotional state. And it turns out that this past year, they recorded the largest level of negative emotions that they have ever seen since they started taking it in 2006. You can kind of see how high it went up and how high it's been going up by this graph behind me. Now, this isn't some sort of lame internet survey. The Gallup organization interviewed over 127,000 people in 122 countries. And they asked the same question about 5 different things. They asked, did you experience the following feelings during a lot of the day yesterday? Feelings: physical pain, worry, sadness, stress, anger. And how did people respond? 4 in 10 said that they experienced a lot of stress and a lot of worry. 3 in 10 experienced a lot of physical pain. More than 1 in 4 had experienced sadness. A little less than 1 in 4, 23% to be exact, had experienced a lot of anger. Now, have you experienced any of those in the last few days? Stress, worry, sadness, anger, some pain? And you might be saying, well, I wasn't until you told me all of that. and now I am. But what are the reasons in Gallup's analysis for all of these negative emotions? Only one, the rise in global hunger, has to do with resources. The other two reasons have to do with relationships. First, more and more people are lonely. They are lonelier now than ever. Less 1 out of 5 say that they have no one in their life that they can count on for help. No one. And the second reason is work. People are more miserable at work than ever. In fact, your misery level will be higher if you're working than if you're unemployed and have no job at all. Now, how does that get better? If you are feeling negative emotions, how do you get better? How do you feel less alone, less angry, less worry, less sadness? More crucially, how instead do you experience more hope, more joy, more happiness? Here God points the way. And let's listen and hear what God has to say as we read together from Hebrews chapter 10. Now, just a moment, these words might seem a little bit mysterious to you, and trust me, before the time is over, you're going to understand exactly what is being said here. Let's listen and hear the word of the Lord. Therefore, my brothers and sisters, since we have confidence to enter the sanctuary by the blood of Jesus, by the new and living way that he opened for us through the curtain, that is, through his flesh, and since we have a great priest over the house of God, let us approach with a true heart in full assurance of faith, with our hearts sprinkled clean from an evil conscience, and our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold fast to the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who is promised is faithful. And let us consider how to provoke one another to love and good deeds, not neglecting to meet together, as is a habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Now, in these words, Jesus shows you the way to hope, to peace, on even your most discouraging of days. Here, Jesus tells you, when you doubt that no one is for you, you can always know that Jesus is. And the more you know that, the more peace-filled, the more joy-filled, the more fulfilled your life becomes. Now, how can knowing that Jesus is for you matter that much? To get that, you need to see what lies behind so much of the pain of our world, so much of its loneliness, of its sadness, of its worry and fear and anger. People are trusting one another less and less. They're doubting more and more if anyone is for them. They are doubting if their government is for them. They are doubting if their bosses and coworkers are for them. They are doubting if their friends and family and neighbors are for them. They are doubting if anyone is for them. These doubts live everywhere, and they have been growing greater and greater. In 2014, in the survey that's taken about every 7 years, called the General Social Survey by the University of Chicago, only 30% of Americans in that survey agreed that most people can be trusted. Only 30%. And the younger you went, the less trusting people became. It's the lowest number the survey had recorded since the survey began over 40 years ago. And of course, that was before the pandemic, and the pandemic only made it worse. And you might say, how? Well, first of all, you had to isolate yourself from other people for a long time. And the more isolated you are from people, the less you become to trust them. And why did you have to isolate yourself from people? Because anyone you met could kill you with a deadly virus. Doesn't exactly build trust in your fellow man, does it? But as the science writer Albert Bolzer put it, when we have no one to trust, our brains can self-destruct. And what does this self-destruction look like? Well, it looks like more worry, more anxiety, more fear, more stress, more anger. So how do you come back to trust? How does trust build? Trust builds the same way your muscles do. Over the summer, my son has been practicing track on the weekends with a track club from his school. And a few weeks ago, they had a particularly tough workout. So he woke up Sunday morning after the workout, and he cried out, he said, "Something's wrong, Dad. My muscles are sore. I can hardly move." I said, "Don't worry. That's a good thing." See, I said, "Patrick, your muscles have to get broken down so you can build them up. That's how they get stronger." And trust builds the same way. You see, in every relationship, you have moments where things get messed up, where they get broken, where they get ruptured. Ruptures in relationships happen. That is not the question. The question is, when the ruptures happen, do you repair them? For the more you repair the ruptures, the stronger the relationship grows. The more trust builds. And if you get ruptures without repairs, if instead you walk away or you wall yourself off, trust fails, relationships fail, and that means you fail. You fall into a distrust that leads to more loneliness, more sadness, more anger, more anxiety in your life. And today, walking away or walling yourself off from others is more tempting than ever. Why? Well, now you have a magical device that agrees with you about everything. Our technology will always play for you the music and the shows that you like. It will always point you to the websites you prefer. It will always give you the people and the opinions with which you most agree. Your technology and the companies that make it, they want your attention. And to keep it, they will keep you as comfortable as possible. So you don't have to turn to people for attention. You have a device that caters to you, that agrees with you like no person ever could. And as wonderful as that sounds, it is not. Because after all, you're not having a relationship with a person. You're having relationships with a bunch of equations, of algorithms. And you don't need something to be for you. You need someone to be for you. And in these words that we read, God shows you that Jesus is that someone. But to get what God is showing you here, you need to understand. I mean, what is this sanctuary? What is this curtain? And what does this curtain have to do with Jesus' flesh? Well, the short answer is they all have to do with relationships, with repairing the ruptures in relationships. You see, when God first reached out to people, to the Israelites, and began a relationship with them, God knew that there would be ruptures in that relationship. God would not make them, but the Israel would. From the very beginning, human brokenness, you see, goes back to broken trust. to broken trust between you and God, between us and God. See, in the beginning in the Garden of Eden, God planted a tree. And God said to Adam and Eve about this tree, trust me about this tree. Don't eat from it. It's not good. But then evil came as a serpent and told them a lie. And said, God doesn't really love you. God doesn't care about you at all. You cannot trust God about anything. You can certainly not trust God about this tree. And they believed that lie. And so, distrust entered the world. And once they stopped trusting God, they started to distrust one another. They started to distrust even the world around them. And human beings have been dealing with the disaster of distrust and all the brokenness from it ever since. But God found a way to rebuild the trust, to repair the relationship, to repair the ruptures. See, every time the children of Israel lost trust in God and looked to other gods or other nations or anything else, God created a way of repair. God built a temple, a sanctuary where repair happened. And in that sanctuary, God created a place where God's presence dwelt on earth, a holy of holies. Yet even there, God stayed distant, hidden behind a thick curtain, which no one could enter except on one day, the day of repair. For each year, God set aside a day of repair, a day to repair every rupture in Israel's relationship with God and also people's relationship with one another. Jews celebrate it to this day. It's called Yom Kippur, or the Day of Atonement. And on that day of repair, one person, the high priest, representing the people, could enter God's presence through the curtain to repair the relationship, to restore the trust. And over the years, through centuries of ruptures and repairs, Israel's trust in God grew. They began to see that this God was not only for them, that this God desired to be there for everyone. And what they began to imagine if that happened. What if God came near, not only to Israel, but to everyone? What if repair happened every day, every moment? What if God became the way of repair? The priest we could trust to be for us, no matter what. And in Jesus, this passage tells you that happened. God did come near. In Jesus, God even became you, a human being. And in Jesus, this God not only became the ultimate priest, this God became the ultimate sacrifice, for sacrifices were part of the day of repair. For as we in our distrust tore into Jesus' flesh on that cross, what did Jesus do? Jesus became our priest, praying for us. Do you remember, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He was repairing the rupture, even as we made it. And there in that torn flesh, Jesus tore apart the curtain, the barriers between you and God forever. And now you can know that Jesus is not only the ultimate sacrifice, Jesus is the ultimate priest. You can know if Jesus was for you on that cross, then you can know Jesus will be for you always. When you doubt no one is for you, you can know Jesus is. You know, sometimes in these days, I catch the sadness, the fear, and to be honest, often the anger that Gallup survey measured. And as I find myself in the midst of those emotions, I do remember that Jesus is for me. But more than that, often In fact, almost always, my fear and anxiety and anger is because I'm reacting to someone else who has done something to me or to others. And I have to remember, if Jesus is for me, then Jesus is for them too. And when I do that, remember that, peace comes, even joy. For you see, as you see Jesus' love for you, Jesus' commitment to repair the relationship with you, it frees you to do that same repair for others. After all, Jesus is for them too. So you find the freedom to risk relationship, to repair the ruptures, to give forgiveness and to receive it. Instead of rejecting and walling off, you risk reaching out, as Hebrew puts it, in love and good deeds, to not hesitate in meeting together as some have, to encourage and support. And in that freedom to risk, to love, comes joy, comes peace, comes fulfillment, comes relationships restored, trust rebuilt, comes a world of that. And that is what this table celebrates. This one who has given you an unwavering hope, an unfailing promise, an unshakable love, an unbroken trust. The one who is for you on your worst days and on your best. So come, taste and see that the Lord is good, that God's goodness faileth never. For when you doubt that no one is for you, you can trust that Jesus always is. In the name of the God who loved you first, in the name of the God who died and rose to save you, in the name of the God who is for you, no matter what. Amen.